today, this is a special day. And so we have Justin Stoddart that's going to interview our fearless leader, Don Yoakum, on a revolutionary new product. And so, Don, Justin, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Cool. Sounds good. Good morning, everybody. I always love being in these calls. Such good energy. There's a difference between being around people who just have good energy because they're trying to pump themselves up, and then there's good energy around people who are actually really high producers and they're actually genuinely enthused about life because they're crushing it. And this call is that. So super fun to be with you all. I'm going to tell my story of how Don Yoakum and my paths crossed, which looking back is almost exactly 2 years ago. And it should be like a national holiday for me because it's one of my most impactful moments of having this man come into my life. And for those that don't know Don well, he's somebody that you will want to. I think most of us probably love and appreciate Don. But our paths crossed because we were both invited to speak at the same event on the same topic. So I won't go into whether or not that was a good idea. It actually worked out really well for us. In most cases, that would be a bit of a bust, right? When it comes to an event, like two guys speaking right after each other on the same topic. Well, maybe, divine intervention or whatever you may call it. But we realized that we had a shared passion that demanded that we get together and realize that our worlds needed to be in one, and our two missions needed to be one. And so that's really kind of how this all started and came about. And what the passion that we both share is that we believe that real estate agents in general are some of the most generous referral givers in the world. In fact, maybe just by a show of hands, I'd love to see how many of you have given a referral to another professional this week. Hands up. Okay. And 2 hands up if you've done more than one this week. It's Wednesday, you guys. You look at that. How many referrals have gone out already from you? Well, in my quest to find a way to have those referrals come back around, I began interviewing other professionals. And one of my favorite professions that I interviewed were financial advisors. I knew that they had significant trust with their clients. And in many cases, they knew what was happening in their life and that they could be a potential really good referral source for real estate agents. And I interviewed over a dozen of them. And it was really interesting to me because it was almost unanimous that they said that at least once a month, if not twice a month, they had one of their clients saying, yeah, we're getting ready to sell a property. Now, when you think about that for a minute, imagine being in a spot where a financial advisor knows that their clients are going to move. Like what? Like all of us are drooling. Like really? Like 1 to 2 a month from one financial advisor? And that was unanimous. They're like, yes. And then I had the follow-up question, which is, how many of those referrals are you passing to a real estate agent? And the answer was almost unanimous as well. And it's like, well, I'm not. I don't pass those to a real estate agent. And I was thinking like myself, you got to be kidding me. Like what a waste, right? Like what an incredible opportunity. And as I dug into that and said, now tell me why. Tell me what's the disconnect, right? Why is that not happening? I uncovered, if I could summarize everything that I learned, it was that they saw themselves working very different than real estate agents. In short, they said, we have clients, real estate agents have past clients, right? And that might just seem like a matter of semantics, but to a financial advisor, it was real enough for them to state that we don't pass that kind of business because it's not someone who's going to continue to accompany somebody throughout their life in the way that maybe a tax professional or we as a financial advisor would. Those people, they see them every single year and they continue to work with them. And so with that, I began to realize that there are a number of professions who have an abundance of influence and an abundance of opportunities to refer real estate agents, and they're not doing it. And what Don and I set out to do now together is to help these other professions to realize just how beneficial it would be for them to actually send referrals to a real estate agent. And the tool that we've created is, and it really was Don's idea now come to life. And I'm really excited to interview Don on this product. So you guys can see by using this tool, I go from being a transactional agent that is never going to get referrals from a financial advisor, aka that's almost all real estate agents, to being one that is seen as an equal, a peer, and somebody that other financial advisors would say, how do I get in business with that real estate agent? That's the product we're talking about that opens up the door for you to get more business from your own client base as well as to start to get that flow coming back to you from very influential professionals. So with that, let's bring Dawn to center stage here, who again conceived this incredible product that is now live and ready to be implemented for all the reasons I described. So maybe if someone who's leading the meeting, if maybe you could spotlight Dawn and me. If not, no problem. We'll continue. But Dawn, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to interview you and highlight this particular product. We're obviously thrilled to get it into the hands of people to see what it can do for them. So all I'm seeing right now is a shared Zoom screen. I'm not sure if we're looking at the right thing there.
I did share my screen, and you should now see the deck, but are you not?
No, we're seeing a different screen. We're seeing, it says Zoom on it. It looks like your web browser.
Hold on, I'll redo that.
Yeah, great.
I see that I'm highlighted. Are you seeing the deep dive now?
There it is.
That's it.
We are.
You got it.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. And gosh, this product is a genesis of a couple things. One of them was that I was on Facebook one day a few years ago, and I saw a question, and the question was put out by the administrator of the group and said, well, what's your retirement strategy? And it was just really amazing to see that about a third of the respondents, and there were several hundred people that responded, said, hey, I'm investing in real estate, and that's going to be my exit plan. And observing now thousands of agents, I have seen that there's about 2% of the agents that actually do that. And it works, by the way. So if you're not doing that, please make sure that you are buying that product that you're selling and creating not only capital gains, but a cash flow that can serve you into retirement. The next third was people were actually saying, I joined EXP and I'm building a sales organization and I'm going to have revenue share for my retirement. But the one that was the most impactful to me was just about a third also said death was their retirement strategy. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's totally insane. And yet I've been in this business. My first full year was 1990. And I have not been to too many retirement parties. Has anybody been to a real estate retirement party? Okay. Not a very positive state of affairs. And so that was probably the genesis of this. And then as Justin shared, I did come into contact with Justin, and he told me about his engagement with the financial advisors, and particularly how the financial advisors viewed us as very transactional and viewing our clients as past clients. And so basically unreferable, right? So my favorite analogy of this, and really the reason why I started Pro Insight, was that at least my experience of being in real estate was that there was a buffet. I brought the food. The affiliates brought a fork. And to be honest, it really pissed me off. And as a driver personality, we don't like being taken for granted or taken advantage of. And so that's why I'm trying to solve that problem for you guys so that you do receive professional referrals. But what I've come to realize is that as beautiful a vision of it is to have this incredible national network, it's a pretty big leap for most professionals to go from having a database in a transactional business to building a professional network. And it can sometimes take years. And so the deep dive product was designed to meet the agent where they are today. And in fact, when you interview most relationship-based agents, they will tell you that more than 70% of their business is by referral, by client. Hopefully they don't refer to them as past clients anymore, by client or sphere of influence. And what this product does, you're looking at the screen here and it says 501 clients. So what this is saying is that this member, this agent, and actually, we do it for all 38 categories on the platform that we serve. So that would include lenders, financial advisors, attorneys, insurance, painter, plumbers, roofers, landscapers. But in this case, we're using a realtor that has 501 clients that they had compiled into a CSV file and then hit against our portal. And we have written an integration into all 155 million properties in the United States. And so what that does 5 to 10 minutes later, because it's literally having to tick against 155 million properties to see if it's a match, is it kicks back their assets under management. And in this example, this individual has 503 million in assets under management. For context, by the way, one of our agents and members, Stephanie Peck, has 800 in her data set, and she had 934 million assets under management. And then it does break it down between income property and primary addresses.
Quick comment on that. In case any of you are not familiar with how financial advisors talk about their book of business, that's exactly how they talk about it. In fact, last week, a financial advisor said, yeah, we're actually required legally to know what our assets under management are and to report that. So simply by you taking the sum total of all of the properties owned by your clients, which is how you would define assets under management, right, Don? That is now leveling the playing field. Is that what I'm understanding, Don? Is that's really causes you to talk like a financial advisor?
100%. Yeah. And this actually not only tells you your assets under management, it tells you how much of those assets are being held with income property, in this case, 30%, or primary residences. And then it translates that into volume. So 152 million in income property, 351 million in primary residences. The next thing, we often will say that the transfer rate in the US is roughly every 10 years. And it tends to be a little bit higher when property values are going up really high or down really fast. But a typical turnover is about 10%. In fact, it's a little bit less in most areas right now because folks are naturally reluctant to give up their 2.85, 3% interest rate and move into a 6.75. But we are still seeing transfer rates. I'm suggesting here for income property, about 12% for primary residence, about 8%, which is about every 12 and a half years. And in this case, the portfolio had 80% of the properties that didn't turn over at all. And then it translates that transfer rate, and this is the transfer rate, mind you, of that particular member, or actually you don't have to be a member to get the deep dive, but that the owner of this data and their client base. And
John, I'll just share, this was an aha for me, is that I was in title for a number of years, and anybody can go to their title company and say, for this neighborhood, right? Tell me how many properties are there, right? But the challenge with that is it's a bunch of strangers, a bunch of people you don't know, and they don't know you. And what I think is really interesting here is that these are your clients. These are your warm relationships, right? This is a snapshot into your client database that's never been done before.
Yeah. And to your point, that was a huge revelation for me when I was coaching some loan officers some years ago when rates were really favorable. And you could do these streamlined refis on FHA loans. And so they pulled up a list and they were contacting these homeowners. I mean, and I'm telling you, the homeowners could have very easily saved $700, $800, $900 a month. But let me tell you, as a cold call, they would not give these guys the time of day, even though they would potentially be saving them $800 a month, right? Because they didn't trust, right? But because it's your clients, as Justin said, it's a completely different communication. And so the next question, though, is we know the volume that you have of your assets under management. Now we know the transfer rate. Well, what percentage of that are you actually capturing? And so we will track that as well. And it was interesting because I was analyzing Stephanie's PECS database because she was in the beta of this. And I said, so for example, Stephanie has roughly 900 million in assets under management with about a 60% capture rate. And so she would do about $54 million a year. And she was like, well, Don, that's exactly what I actually did 55 million last year. So it is, not only is it powerful for you to be able to have such more informed conversations with your clients now. And by the way, she also said to me, I had no idea I had a client that had 30 rentals in Flint, Michigan. Okay. So it gives you a barometer of how you're doing in terms of your level of relationship with your own clients. Like I'll talk to somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact. I talked to somebody from Colorado that had been in the business for 23 years. And I asked him, well, how many, usually agents know roughly how many people they have, how many leads they have in their database. This guy wasn't actually even sure. And then when I explained the assets under management, I was talking a foreign language to him. And this is a guy, by the way, that's doing 60 deals a year. It was crazy. Anyway, we want something better for you guys, obviously.
Well, I think that's the powerful component, right? Is sometimes we kid ourselves that maybe we're not as good as we actually are, or maybe we think that we're way better than we are. It's like, yeah, all my clients know me. They get my emails. And are they using you? And sometimes I think that it's because we don't even have transparency on all the properties that they own, right? It's I sold them that house. Of course, they're my clients. Little did you know they've got 5 rental properties in your town that they're using somebody else, right? Now all of a sudden you've got visibility on that, and you're not going to go to them and make them feel bad about that, but you're going to open up conversations about their real estate portfolio and how you might be able to help them, right? So anyway, just that this is really opens up under the hood of like, what do my clients really need, and who should I be focusing on versus just the first initial of their last name, right?
Yeah, we'll get into how to concentrate your energies, but it was funny when Stephanie heard that. She goes, "Well, 60%, huh?" Because she works with the mentality like anything less than 100% is not cool, right? So that was fun. But the difference, by the way, from 60 for 100 for her, $46 million a year. Okay, so but in this scenario, this agent's doing roughly $27 million in business, which for most people, they would like doing that amount of business. One of the things that I want you guys to pay attention to is that, well, and I'll go to the commission next. Sorry, I'm assuming about a 2.5 and 2.75 commission, but it'll vary by client and area and agent, of course. You would put in what it is appropriate for you. And so what this is saying is that this agent with 500 clients with 503 million assets under management is making roughly $720,000 per year, which is a mighty good income. That's definitely a top 1%er. But what I want you to see is that there's a relationship between, for one client basically adds about $1,000 a year in income. So if I've got 100 clients in my data set that you've transformed into a client base, and you maintain a 60% capture rate, you could roughly figure you were going to do 100,000 a year. 200 will get you 200, 300, 300. Actually, in this case, it's a little bit more than that. But property values will vary by area as well. The U.S. average is about 425, and your area may be a little more or less. The point is, there's a very direct correlation. And so, we're not W-2 employees, folks. If you want to increase your income by $100,000, then add 100 people to your client base for whom you are a real estate resource to become their realtor of choice. All right. The way that we know, like, let's say Stephanie, she has 800 clients in her data set. who do you call? Well, we've identified the key areas where there are opportunities to serve. And this is how we want to be able to take you from being a transactional professional into a relational professional where you're really giving consultation to your clients and making a difference for them.
No, and one term that stands out to me, Don, as I think about this, it's been said before, don't be a real estate agent, be a real estate advisor. And oftentimes the only thing people shift in actually in their business to call themselves that is they just like nothing. They just say, yeah, I'm actually a real estate advisor because that sounds better. And what I hear you saying is that this actually empowers a real estate agent to actually be an advisor, right? They actually have all the information in front of them to advise that client, not just on the one property, the transaction, right? You seeing the correlation there? If you can be a transactional advisor, right? In other words, I advise people on this transaction. What we're saying is you can step back and be an advisor to their real estate portfolio. You can be a wealth advisor for their real estate portfolio. And although that sounds cute, it sounds nice, you actually have something substantive to be able to actually help you to do that, right? It's not just a pretty new title that makes you feel more sophisticated. No, it's real. You actually have the data to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Hey, by the way, I see Brett Schwartz is in the house. Brett, I know that you have a short fuse, so I'm going to give 3 examples, case studies. You're number 3, so do you have 5 more minutes? Okay, cool. All right. So once you have uploaded your data set, transformed it into a client base, now what's happened is you have opportunities to serve. And so case study number 1 is client has free and clear property. It's an income property. He's over 60 years old and he's looking to simplify his life. I was talking with Tom Daves and also Russell Inyart in the Sacramento market, for example. If you had a $500,000 home, roughly what the rent would be. And then after you figure for maintenance and management and vacancy, what would the cash flow be? And it came out around $2,500 a month. And what this scenario is saying, because by the way, if somebody has bought this rental, say 20 years ago, they'll have a very low basis. In other words, they're going to have a very significant capital gain if they sell. So you'll get these older folks that are very property rich, but cash poor. And so here's a solution where they could do seller financing. Of course, they're going to want the buyer to put a material down payment, at least 20%. But in one of the benefits of the high interest rate environment that we have relative to a few years ago is that you could actually get pretty good money on a note right now, probably 7.5%. And so at 7% amortized over 15 years, it's $3,595 in income. So you take somebody that was earning $2,400 a month net and had to worry about managing the property manager and occasional vacancies to not having those worries anymore and increasing their monthly income by over $1,000 a month and spreading that capital gain over 50 years. So in this case, you probably want to have a realtor and a tax specialist involved. Next scenario, we have a couple that they have a free and clear property again, but this one's a personal residence. And again, they're cash rich. By the way, in America today, we have record equity. I saw a quote the other day that Americans are holding over 35 trillion in equity right now. More than 30% of the homes today are free and clear. And so what somebody could do in that scenario is they could do a reverse mortgage and they could pull out half of their equity. They could go pay cash for a motorhome. They could travel the country and have to be able to live in their home for the rest of their lives with no mortgage payment, just be responsible for taxes and insurance. So that's another solution for them that would change their lives in a really material way. So Brett, this is your department. So Brett has started a company called Capital Gains Tax Solution. And, and I've been in the business. I told you my first full year was 1990. And I thought I had heard everything or most things. But when I met Brett, he enlightened me that it was possible to be able to shelter or defer. Brett, you're going to probably want to give me the correct language around this. But we have an individual, I'm sure you guys know, there's a $250,000 gain exclusion on personal residence, or if you're married, it goes up to $500,000. Well, it turns out some folks have done a lot better than that, and Brett will probably share an example or two where if they sold their primary residence, they'd have a huge capital gain. So, Brett, can you come off mute and just share? Maybe I'd like to hear, or we'd like to hear, of a real example and how you help that client.
Yeah, we had a client in Palo Alto near Stanford University. His sales price was about 8.3 million. He had 6 kids. Kids were all out of school in college and on their career. And his entire equity, basically net worth, was tied into this property. So exactly what Don's saying here, where he's looking for ability to retire and achieve what's called truly passive income. And the challenge is when you live in a house, it's not producing income, primary home, unless you're renting the house, which he doesn't want to do, and it's tough. So his basis, I think on this scenario, was around 5.5 million. And so you do the math on that. He's single at this point, so he only has a 250 exclusion. So he's looking at, call it at least $2.5 million of gain. California, you're looking at tax of about 33% on a primary home. So you do the math on that. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax on 2.5 million. I think he would have paid like 800,000. I don't have the math in front of me exactly, but so we were able to help him set up a plan where he could sell his primary home and defer the tax and not have to do a 1031 exchange. And that's really the key here. Is people want the ability to be passive. Most do not want to go into the toilets, the trash, the liability. Most don't even, if they have a primary luxury home, they don't necessarily have experience with investment property, nor does a primary home eligible for a 1031 exchange. And so, that's one example. We've done it in Menlo Park. We've done it in Los Gatos. We've done it in San Diego, LA. We'd helped a client in Colorado for another house. They're doing a second one with us. And these, a lot of our clients too are actually realtors themselves. And in fact, the one in Palo Alto he used to sell $100 million a year in real estate transactions. He
used to be one of my agents, by the way.
Yeah. And so the big thing there is and his quote was, "Hey, every single luxury agent should know about this because we just don't know. Most people don't know, and they don't get the listings. And so without the structure and if you don't bring if you don't bring a solution to the problem, you're not going to likely get the listing, and the deal would have just died. The listing agent wouldn't have sold the property. He wouldn't have got his dream, which is to retire and sell that house. He also had a lot of debt on the property too, so we were able to pay off all the debt. In fact, it was tough. Like, had we not paid off that debt, he was in risk of being foreclosed on, because he had used the property like a piggy bank many years and didn't like cash out refis, and the debt got in a bad position. So everything that Don is saying here, like if you can have a mindset of being a real estate investment advisor or a real estate wealth advisor, however you want to put it, and have conversations around tax flow, cash flow, and debt flow, you can expand the value that you can bring to your clients. And when you do that, the conversations naturally will, the listings will come once you solve the problem. But we've helped so many people who otherwise would not have sold. We did another $2.5 million apartment complex up in Sacramento. And that's actually one where I actually listed and sold it myself. And we beat out all the major other firms that were competing with us. And the reason is because I provided a solution to their problem. And they're like thrilled, so happy. And most people just don't know how to do this, but I'm happy to help everybody here on the EXP family, win these listings. It just needs to be larger transactions, couple $1 million and above to make it make sense for the primary homes, or if it's investment properties, it needs to be $1 million and above But we're doing another deal in Roseville. Actually, it's closing. Another client's closing for an EXP agent on the EXP family team. He's working with us. He's bringing it. So yeah, we keep doing a lot of deals, and I think that's the key. Just know that the solutions are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So thanks, Brett. And by the way, if people want to reach you, how do they do that? And I know you have a podcast. Can you put that information in the chat by chance?
Yeah, I'll drop it in the chat, but it's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. I also have a best-selling book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we have a YouTube channel, podcast, but I'll drop it in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. I know you've got a conference to get back to, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you stepping in.
Thanks.
Hey, Don, I want to make a comment here really quickly. One observation that I've had is you come across people like Brett that have real solutions like that. And this tool that will empower you to do that is that I believe that order takers, meaning agents who just get a phone call to say, come list my property, those days are limited. I think consumers want more value for what they see as they're paying out. They don't see all the stuff that we do to get to that point. And all they know is that they don't want to pay somebody a lot of money for what they perceive as not being much. And I think those professionals who will continue to thrive moving forward are those who will do exactly what Brett just described, which is they will identify with real data what's happening, and then they'll be able to produce solutions to the problems that others don't know of. So I'm a big fan of Brett. I've known Brett for a long time, and it's good to have his solution kind of be wide known as well. So go ahead, Don.
Well, and I just want to reiterate that one solution netted that realtor an $8 million listing. Okay. Somebody wants to do the math on that. 2.5%. I think that is over 200,000. And save the client 800,000 in taxes. Okay. Moving on though. So one of the things, it was funny because I was showing Russell in this whole deal with the deep dive, and he's like, man, that is really cool. And of course, Russell's been an investor for over 20 years. He goes, but Don, I'll be honest, man, because Russell typically will do 70, 80 deals a year. So the guy is just already super busy. He goes, I'll be honest, as great as that information is, I don't know how I'll be able to find the time to make those calls. And he goes, can you just make my phone ring? And I says, well, actually, maybe we can. And so one of the things that we plan to do, it's just fascinating what's happening with AI right now and the intelligence that you can compile, and you can look at these different key indicators. Like I had referenced somebody that was 60 years old, free and clear property, income property, low basis. These are all public record information. And I want to reiterate, all the information here is all public record, right? It's just that we've compiled it in a way that it can be useful for the professionals to be able to have informed conversations with their clients. And yet I know, because I've had roughly 5,000 agents work for me, that there's only a few percent that will pick up the phone and do that. And so our plan is a done for you solution. So once we've identified, let's say, the top 20% of opportunities, you could hit select all, and we'll communicate to the clients on behalf of you and in your name, of course, because that's the way you have influence with the client. And then literally have them calling you or booking appointments in your calendar. So that's a goal for this and for you to make possible. All right. So to wrap up here, I've been in communication. Remember, I told you that the genesis of this was that I saw that post that 1/3 of agents viewed death as a retirement strategy. And I'm really, on a mission to change that. And yet I was talking to a business broker, and he was saying, Don, there's 34 million businesses in the US, yet only 5% sell. I didn't tell him, well, 5%, that's pretty good. I'll bet less than 0.5% of the real estate practices sell, even on a referral basis. But he goes, but when you can get the income to 500,000 or more, you hit this tipping point and you create a sellable asset. And it's because apparently 500,000 is a level of income that most people can't just earn, right? Like a lot of us have six-figure incomes, even $250,000 a year, but to net over $500,000 a year usually requires owning some type of business. And so that becomes, you move from having a database and retiring with a whimper, or hopefully you bought real estate for the last 25 years, okay? Or you joined EXP and built revenue share. But if you, in the absence of those two things, it's not a pretty picture. What we want to do is we want, if somebody is making $100,000 or more today, we know we can get them to 500,000 within 3 years. Now they have a sellable asset, but we've also now have this client base that we are consistently identifying opportunities and then executing on those opportunities to make the clients aware. Because, you know, it's not that our agents aren't willing to work and they're not knowledgeable. And by the way, if you don't have that knowledge on a particular strategy, connect with somebody like Brett, learn what Capital Gains Tax Solutions is doing. That was new to me only a couple of years ago. And now make it a goal of getting your net revenue to over 500,000, of having a transferable asset so we can actually go to your retirement party. Okay. So that's the goal here, guys, is to make it so that you can retire from this business with dignity. You can actually have a sellable asset that can secure your family's future. And it's now really possible. And so if you're interested in learning more about the deep dive, reach out to Megan at Megan@proinsight.com. I'll put that in the chat for you. And Megan already did. She's so much better than me. Anyway, all right, you guys, that's my message for today. I thank you so much for taking the time to hear this. I really hope that you will get your database organized so that you can take advantage of this opportunity. And Mark, there's a question. Mark was asking, how does, I missed that. Do you see that question, Justin?
I don't.
He says, how does it know the property? Okay. Yeah, Mark, that's actually a really great question. Mark is asking, because some people will hold properties in trust. If the mailing address for the trust is their primary residence, then we can usually pick that up. If it's PO box or something like that, we probably won't. So when we're looking at assets under management, that's actually a minimum number. Like even Stephanie, she's a pretty active investor, and it did not pick up all of her properties. Okay, so when I'm suggesting 503 million, or in Stephanie's case, when we return 934 million, that is probably well, I know it's a conservative estimate. So one of the things is, this is not a one or done thing. Don't leave this conversation and go, oh, geez, I want to do that, but I got to spend the next 90 days working on my database. This is an evolutionary process where you can, if you have 50 names organized, you can start with 50. And the product is purchased on a year basis. So throughout the year, you can just be updating your database. So what you would do, Mark, if you knew you had a affluent client and they weren't showing up with assets under management, you just reach out to them, right? And you're not going to say, hey, Mark, I know that you own a bunch of real estate, but I'm not picking it up on my secret title search. You're going to call them up and just say, you know, Mark, it's been such an honor to serve you as your realtor, and I'm just curious what your retirement strategy is in regards to real estate. And Mark's going to probably say, well, matter of fact, Don, I have 17 properties. Oh, no kidding. Tell me about that. And how do you have them organized? Oh, I have them in a trust. Oh, no kidding. Okay. What's the name of that trust? Okay. Anyway, so in other words, once you get that, name of the trust, then we can match it to the properties, and you can then have the entire portfolio revealed to you. But great question. Thank you. All right, you guys, we want to be respectful of your time. And Tom,
Yay.
what you want to wrap us up, buddy?
Yeah, let's wrap things up. Well, next week we've got an amazing speaker. We've got Jackie McKelvin as our host. So thank you so much, Justin and Dawn. Now you all got your inspiration. Time to put in the perspiration. Have a great day. Thank you so much, and talk soon.